Hey there, everybody. Wanted to jump on here really quick. I would like to talk about white privilege. Now, I've had quite an interesting couple of weeks. Obviously, been talking a lot about the tragic situation with George Floyd, and uh, that has led into some very interesting Facebook debates. And the last couple of days, actually, I've had a purging of sorts with some of my friends on Facebook, and I personally am just getting to a point where I just don't care anymore about losing friends or offending people. If the message that I'm giving offends you, then maybe you need to take a step back and reassess things. And if you're not able to do that, then maybe we shouldn't be talking. But the reason why I bring this up and I want to talk about white privilege is because one of the things that I'm seeing a lot right now is from people who claim to believe in white privilege, and they do think that there's some kind of inequity that exists, but when you try to point it out, they don't accept that that's what it is. And I see this as it pertains to extremes, right? What happened to George Floyd, police violence and things like that. I get kickback on that. This isn't about race. This is about one corrupt cop or one bad person. It's not about. It's not nothing to do with race, because that's like the extreme. But then there's also the more subtle things. For example, I saw one of these meme messages on Facebook saying, "Why are we able to have a funeral for George Floyd?" The way they worded it was actually, why does George Floyd get to have a funeral, yet students can't have a high school graduation? So this sparked a good debate with me and the person who posted it, and I basically made the point that ultimately that to ask that question is an example of white privilege, and he didn't agree, and he said it has nothing to do with white privilege. It's just me pointing out inconsistency. I'm not going to get too heavy into why that's aside from being just blatantly insensitive and ill-timed. It's completely ridiculous. The two have nothing to do with each other, and the whole point of the narrative is to try to create a conflict of interest with people who believe in social distancing and wearing masks, and yet we're allowed to have a funeral for George Floyd. Aside from the fact that there are graduations happening all across the country, the point here being that he would not accept my definition of white privilege as it pertained to this particular argument. Now, the point I want to make is white privilege is in and of itself a very fluid definition. It kind of ebbs and flows with the times, and it has a lot of different meanings and a lot of different implications for different people. But the context of this, for me, was that you asking this question is white privilege because this is the thing that you're worried about. You're worried that a man who had his neck crushed under the weight of an officer and murdered, that he gets to have a funeral while high school students don't get to have a graduation. That is extreme textbook white privilege, the fact that that's the thing that you're worried about. Now, that's not an end-all be-all definition of white privilege. It's not what I'm saying, but it goes along with the things that bother us. Black privilege is getting to have a funeral after you were murdered by the police. White privilege is, oh shit, why don't I get to have a graduation? I mean, you talk about snowflakes. I've never seen bigger snowflakes than these types of people. They just bitch and moan about the smallest thing, and they're wrong. I mean, they're wrong anyway. Their graduations are happening. They're slightly modified, but they are happening. Look, I get the inconveniences, okay? I get it. I get that you're frustrated that you have to wear a mask. I get that You're frustrated because when you go to the ATM machine, you have to choose English or Spanish, or you have to have a person on the other line who speaks with an accent that you don't quite enjoy listening to. There's a reason why these are called white people problems, okay? Because they're not real problems. They're just annoyances that we choose to make a big issue out of. But the point here is this person would not see that. He kept coming back to that this is not about white privilege, it's about why do we get to do this and not this, and I just could not get him to understand. Ultimately, he called me a moron and a sheep, and he actually implied that I needed to get permission from my wife to even make these statements. I don't even know what that has to do with anything, but that friendship ended pretty quickly after that. But I just wanted to hammer that point home. I realize that I may very well be talking to the choir right now. I don't know if there's anybody listening, but I fully welcome anybody that disagrees with what I'm saying to please leave a comment or a voicemail, 732-10th-GO, or you can always check me out on Facebook. But as I said, the white privilege comes in many different facets in our society. But one of those, and it's a big one, it's the fact of asking a question like that. The thing that bothers you the most. What's the thing that bothers you the most? The fact that you can't have a graduation, or the fact that somebody just got shot when they were running away from the police? That's your privilege. Anyway, thanks a lot for listening. I'll be talking to you again very soon. Don't be afraid to question the consensus.